Listen, if you are a woman in her mid 40s or above, or you're approaching that time, or you're a person in relationship with said woman, guys, this is a conversation that you do not want to miss because today we are talking about something that we all need to hear and almost none of us get to. It's a conversation about perimenopause. But we're not just going to talk about what's happening to your body. We are going to dive into what's happening to your relationship. Who's talking about that? Yeah, we need to. And today we're going to name that reality and then we're going to change the story. And I've got a really amazing guest expert who is going to help us understand what's really going on. Welcome to another conversation in the relationship revolution. These are catalyst conversations. They are changing conversations on life, love, and leadership. This podcast is for the high achieving woman who wants it all: the career, the impact, the love story. These aren't tips and tactics. These are paradigm shifts, my friends. I'm your host, Dr. Jeni Wahlig, and I'm so glad that you are here because this month we are having a conversation about the living relationship. This is a conversation, or these conversations all month long are about the way that our relationship actually changes over time, but not just changes, sometimes dies, is reborn, must evolve. And today's conversation fits so perfectly within that because when we women hit perimenopause, shit changes. And some things need to die, and a lot of things need to evolve. This isn't just a health conversation, though. This is a relationship conversation, right? This is a relational evolution conversation, and one that is going to support you in leading yourself and your relationship powerfully. This isn't what you're going to hear at the doctor's office, friends. This is what you're going to hear and what we need to hear when someone finally decides to tell you the truth. For those of you who are new, let me introduce myself, and then I'm going to bring in our guest. My name is Dr. Jeni Wahlig. I am the founder or co-founder, can't forget my partner and soulmate, Calvin, co-founder of Powerful Love, and I am a relationship revolutionary. I am a mentor, educator, creator of a body of work dedicated to teaching and empowering women and couples to lead their relationships with what it really means to love, because nothing, truly nothing, affects our lives more than our relationships. And this mission that I have to revolutionize relationships is really a great global healing through love. Love as a practice, love as an act that we do for the highest good of all. If you want to help participate in this revolution, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, share, and of course, do your part to lead in love, because we all need our relationships, more love, and better health and happiness. Let me welcome our amazing guest today, my friends. I am bringing in Miss Amber Vasquez, our guest today. Hi, Amber. Thank you for being here. Let me introduce you to everybody because we're so lucky to have you sharing your wisdom and expertise. Guys, Amber is a nurse practitioner with over 20 years of clinical experience. She's a Menopause Society certified practitioner and the founder of Menopause Solutions. Amber has spent years at Moffitt Cancer Center watching women suffer in silence through treatment-related hormonal changes, breast cancer primarily, as I understand, right? And that experience had a big impact on her. She decided that what these women were going through wasn't good enough. And so today she's working with women across Florida to create individualized care plans that address the full picture of what's happening in our bodies during the menopausal transition. Amber is brilliant. She's direct, and she is here to give us the information that our doctors probably have not given us. Amber, welcome to the Relationship Revolutionary podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for taking such an interest in this topic. It's near and dear to my heart, and I'm super excited to get some information out there. So,
Yes, and it's so like I can't emphasize enough how important it is. And we'll probably talk a little bit about my own story, but this my own experience is what clued me in to why this conversation is so essential. Because prior to going through perimenopause myself, I had no idea. All my years in training as a relationship expert, no one ever fucking talked about this. And it is like an unavoidable piece of the developmental life cycle, and it totally impacts a relationship.
100,000%. And I had my own experience. So I was like, what is this? And no one tells you. Yes, it's a real
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
So I would love to start there in with your story, Amber. Like what what brought you into this work? When did perimenopause become the passion? How did that come up for you?
My background, as you said, when I worked with cancer patients, breast cancer, it wasn't so much as the breast cancer treatment, it was the result and the hormonal fluctuations I knew these poor women were going through. And I would see them in follow up, and there was nothing we could do. And it just broke my heart. And that started it. And after that, my two best friends, there was three of us that lived together in college. We were roommates, and
Mhm.
two of them both called me 2 months apart saying that they had breast cancer.
Oh
They were
shit.
40 and 41. I was terrified had I
Oh
not
my
just
god.
had my mammogram. I wasn't as worried about the breast cancer than I was that they are going to lose the intimacy at the peak of their lives with
Mm.
their spouses because this is going to change everything. Intimacy, sexual, you name it. And
Mhm.
that was it. I'm like, there needs to be something. So that's what drove me to start looking into all of this. And then my own personal experience was that I was in my late 30s, early 40s. I was waking up at night, hot flashes, night sweats, couldn't sleep. My anxiety was off the chain right before my period. Then I would cycle, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, then it's okay. But
Yeah.
that progressed and it got worse. And I was like, what is happening? And then on top of that, my husband and I struggled. We went through a very crucial period of time where I didn't recognize him and he didn't recognize me because
Yeah.
of these changes. And as someone who does this, I had to dig that much further in to realize what was actually occurring. That's my story.
Yeah, and, thank you so much for sharing because that story is so real, and I think that there are a lot of women, if not all of them, who can relate, right? This is no joke, the way that we
Yeah.
change and this identity shifting that we go through, and who am I? And
Yep.
also, who's my partner?
Yep.
And also, wait a second, do I really want to put up with this? Is this really working for me? What do I
Yep.
need differently now in this dynamic? And that can be so confusing for people. But I feel like before I want to go into that, like you mentioned something when you were working with women in the cancer treatment center, you noticed that like what really concerned you was the way that the hormones were affecting them. Can you
Mhm.
share more about that? What have you found about the way our hormones actually affect not just our bodies, but other shit as well, including our relationships?
Everything. It is absolutely everything. And each one has a different role. But
Yeah.
basically, for those specific women, we would, if they were hormone receptor positive, they're placed on an aromatase inhibitor or tamoxifen, depending upon if they were pre or postmenopausal. The result is you're shutting down estrogen, however you want to look at it. So you're
Okay.
shutting it down. So
Mhm.
you have a 30-year-old woman who is going through this and you're shutting down her hormones. So now she feels like she's 65. She gets out
Oh,
of bed, her knees hurt, her ankles hurt. She can't think. The brain fog is real. Libido, forget it. It hurts to have sex. It's dry. Sensation isn't there anymore.
yeah.
She used to be able to have an orgasm. It's not happening anymore. Her partner feels a certain kind of way. It cascades, is my point. And it's heartbreaking. And the hot flashes or the night sweats was one reason that I got into this, but there's
Mhm.
so much more to this. There's
Mhm.
so many hidden things that we don't think about with bones and heart and so forth. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
think oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna say each hormone has their different role, right? Like progesterone is what calms us, and that's what we lose in peri specifically. So you
Mm,
slowly start to lose your progesterone, which causes anxiety, the sleeping issues, and that's your excess bleeding. A lot of women have heavy bleeding. They
mm,
go into their gynecologist and they say, let's do an ablation. You can stabilize it with other things. But to that token, your progesterone's your glass of wine. Think about it that way. It calms you down, right? Your estrogen is what helps you think to focus. It's your natural SSRI. So it's your body's natural Zoloft or Prozac or however you want to look at it. So when it starts to go away, you no longer have you, or rather, you just more get that emotional variability, is where I'm going with this.
yeah.
Even more so is that oxytocin, which we'll talk about a little bit.
Mm. Listen, this is so huge because like we think about perimenopause as just like the hot flashes and the night sweats and maybe the brain fog, but the impact of being in pain, of feeling less calm, of feeling more depressed, of and I think one of the things that I noticed within myself is, and that I've learned since is pretty typical in perimenopause, is that as these hormones drop for us, we're women are no longer biologically motivated to prioritize harmony,
Correct.
to put their partnership first over themselves. And I know for myself, it was
Mhm.
like all of a sudden I had far fewer fucks to give.
Yep. All day
And
long.
all day
All
long,
time, yes.
right?
Yep, yep.
And dynamics in my relationship, I talked about
Mhm.
this a bit in my in the first episode I shared this of this month's theme, but my relationship, like, dynamics that I thought were fine, all of a sudden no longer worked for me. They weren't fine. They
Yes.
were a big problem, and they needed to change, and they needed to change quickly because I could not I literally could not deal, just couldn't. Like, my capacity, my biological ability to deal with all kinds of things, right?
Yep.
That showed up in relationships. It just was like, "No."
And with the loss of hormones, you lose the coping ability that comes
Ugh,
with it. And so that no fucks given is a real thing because biologically that's what's happening.
yeah,
And the other thing that we spoke about previously is that estrogen and oxytocin go hand in hand.
okay.
What is oxytocin?
Okay.
Oxytocin is what everybody thinks about it. Oh, if you had a baby, it helps to, that's what they'll give you to push and all of that. Yes, it
Mhm,
has that
mhm.
role. It also has the role of the bonding with the baby if you breastfeed a child. But there's another huge component to it, which is closeness and biological behavior as far as bonding with your partner. And oxytocin and estrogen work together. So if you're
Mm,
losing your estrogen, your oxytocin levels are also going to decrease. Guess what happens? You and your partner start fighting. You no longer feel as close. And you're like, what is happening? And that just, again, it just makes it worse. And that's another cascading point.
yeah, yeah. It's like we go through I remember when I was a kid, my parents would talk about midlife crises.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just a midlife crisis. This is a biological change that is getting in our way of doing relationships the same way that we had been doing them. Yeah?
Yes, agreed. And I think something when you look at it, and again, it's just me putting the pieces together, but it's like your body is saying, I no longer want to have babies anymore. We're past that point, and
Mhm,
these
mhm.
changes are occurring.
Yep.
Biologically, your body's then I shouldn't want sex anymore. And I
Mhm.
shouldn't feel like I need to connect to my partner because we're not going to have a baby anymore. And that's no longer the role of what we're doing, but we're living longer and our lifespan is longer and our modern medicine, however you want to look at it,
Yep.
but and our partnerships are extending 40, 50 years post-menopausal transition for many women. And so there has got to be something. And they say most divorces occur in the early 40s,
Yep.
and it's women driven. And you have
100%.
to And you have to wonder, nobody ever put these pieces together and said, wow, maybe it's just because that this is going on. And oh my goodness, maybe you could save relationships and marriage because then things might change. I don't know. It's just my
Listen.
theory, my
Oh,
soapbox.
Amber, you are on to something very real here, and I won't go too far down this tangent soapbox, but it speaks to me of one of so many examples of how women's health, women's experience is and has historically been deprioritized in our narrative. Our
Mhm,
sexuality, our body development, the experience of pregnancy, our pleasure, certainly perimenopause. This is it's just been minimized. Um, I
100%.
I and we get that, like, the echoes of that, and I think this is really relevant to our conversation, the echoes of that show up in our doctor's offices.
Yep, 100%. Absolutely. Women end up going to cardiologists because they're having palpitations, or they end up spending all this money. I have treated more women who thought that they had fibromyalgia, massive depression. I can't even tell you, the list goes on and on. I put them on hormone replacement therapy, and the woman who was in crippling pain is now riding motorcycles and looking for a boyfriend. And she goes, I never had fibromyalgia. And I'm like, it's upsetting to me
Mhm,
because there's a huge cost to this. There's a mental toll on this, and these poor women go into these doctors and they come back and say everything's okay,
mhm,
but it's not okay.
yeah,
And why isn't it okay? And why isn't anybody talking about this?
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's 100% a problem, and I'm so glad that we're talking about this because this is revolutionary, right? Like, we and I know more and more women I see more women like yourself, Amber, who are committed to supporting women through perimenopause, but it's still not enough of the conversation because you're absolutely
Agreed.
right. This is if we were talking about this,
Mhm.
anticipating this, and addressing it sensitively, thoroughly,
100%.
appropriately, individually for what it is, and not dismissing it like, oh, it's some other illness or disease, or oh, it's fine, or oh, you're just emotional, because I know there's a lot of that going on. And we women
Right.
internalize that too. It's just my problem. No,
Correct.
it's
Correct.
not.
Why is everybody looking at me? Why do I feel crazy? Yes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it
Or I
just,
just got to
it's a
get my emotions under control, or
correct. Yeah.
no.
And there's more to it. And the other thing that I was thinking of within the past couple weeks is a lot more women are waiting to have children later in life, right? So a lot of us
Yeah.
are putting that on the back burner. Careers are more important, or what
Mhm,
have you, or life
mhm.
happens, or you're taking care of a family member, whatever, but you still want to have a child. And so they're having children later, which is the late 30s, could
Yep.
be early 40s. You go in the doctor's office, they tell you that it's horrible what they say, but they basically say that it's like a grandmother having a baby, but it's not true. But
I
anyway,
I was
more
told I was geriatric. I got pregnant at
that's what it
35.
is, the geriatric pregnancies. Thank you for using my brain fog brain, appreciate that. But to that token, what is also happening is these women are in peri, the hormones are starting to fluctuate, having babies, guess what? Postpartum is gonna be so much higher. You know
Yo,
why? Because these hormonal fluctuations are that much greater. So then they're suffering with postpartum and peri at the same time, and they don't even know it, and they feel lost, and it's heartbreaking.
mhm,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, it's all and I don't think that most people realize the incredible role that hormones play in our lives daily. And my partner Calvin is a trans man, and so this and I've worked a lot with the trans community, and that was like, if I hadn't had those that interest in those experience, I too would not have had any idea of how many pieces of our identity, our emotional stability, our mental health, our energy levels, our physical state, our sleep habits, and our relational dynamics are affected by our hormones.
Yeah.
But they, but like, hormones are in so many ways like running the show and like affecting our ability to use our prefrontal cortex to be who we think that we are, to
Correct.
live life and experience life in a particular way,
Correct.
influenced by
100%.
hormones.
It's so true, and I understand it's not for every woman, or not every woman wants to go on hormone replacement therapy. I can only speak to my experience and some of the women that I treat, but when I personally did it, I was like, the sky is blue again. I could
Mhm.
feel that heaviness lift, and I was like, I had no idea until it happened to me. And it was incredible. And again, just there's so many different facets of it too. But yes, to your point, it affects everything. I agree
Yes.
with you.
Yeah.
So yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And this it's so interesting. This conversation is so timely. I just got a message like yesterday from my sister's younger sister, but only by 11 months. And she's in the medical field. And her message was like, Jeni, please go to an OBGYN and get on estrogen. I have to read this to you, Amber, and the audience, because it was like, oh my gosh, did you just say that to me? And then we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
She says this. Also, please go see an OBGYN and get yourself on some estrogen. It is life-changing. I have so much energy. I stayed up till 10 last night all by myself and had to make myself go to bed. And my sex drive is back full force. I'm telling you, I feel like I'm 25 again.
So just a caveat side note, everybody loves the testosterone conversation right now, right? It's
Mm.
everywhere. It's all over the internet and all of that. If you take testosterone, yes, it may boost your libido, but guess what? You haven't fixed the lady part problem. So
Yeah.
now you want to do it, but it's a struggle.
Yeah.
So to that token, yes, estrogen to me is the game changer. And then the other, it's like the ice cream cone, right? And then the others are the add-ons and they help whatever if you want to do it that way. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's to that token, there's also a lot of people who are afraid, and the data shows that it's estrogen is not what we have today. It was a big fear factor with the Women's Health Initiative, and I'm sure you're versed in all of this, but basically we learned a lot from that study that timing matters, what you use matters, route matters, all of the above.
Oh, yeah. Yes, 100%. And I imagine for each woman, it's a little bit different of a solution, which is why your work is so fantastic, Amber, in like creating these individualized treatment plans. Yeah.
For perimenopause especially, because in
Mhm.
peri you're having such fluctuations, the you still have your hormones, they're just changing, and that progesterone level is slowly decreasing over time. Like I said, those are your first symptoms and they can last for 5 to 10 years. Then
Mhm.
your estrogen becomes volatile, so it's ups and downs and ups and downs, and grabbing lab work while you're still cycling doesn't really help because it's all over the place, so it doesn't really paint the picture.
Right.
So if you are perimenopausal and you go in and they say your lab work's fine, doesn't matter. Your symptoms trump
Right.
ultimately. And
Love
to
that.
that token, there's a lot of patients where I will just buffer the last 2 weeks of the cycle or the last week of the cycle before their period, because that's when they're starting to have those symptoms. But they're
Mm.
making enough estrogen the beginning of the month that they don't need it. So you can play around with it, but it is important to go to somebody who's either certified by the Menopause Society or somebody who is versed in how to do this, because it's not a one size fits all. And that's where a lot of women will get put on something and they feel worse
Right.
because the clinician didn't understand what exactly was going on, if that makes sense.
Oh,
So
100%. And I think that is so huge. And I'm really glad that you're bringing that up, Amber, because we women talk a lot about relational leaderships and leading ourselves. And like, this is another space where, unfortunately, we need to lead ourselves because we can't, I think, go into the medical system and just assume that our standard PCP or even typical OBGYN is going to know exact like the treatment that's going to be best for us. Not that they won't, but to your point, we have the responsibility to ourselves to ensure that we're getting care from someone who knows what they're doing, and to pay attention to whether the treatment is actually helping, because it's not going to be a one size fits all solution.
correct. And there's plenty, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of GYNs, primaries, they are versed in this, and I totally support that. It's just I've heard stories from women who have tried it and they're like, oh my God, it was the worst thing in the world and it made me feel terrible. And don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, there's ways to adjust this, but that's where it's important to just be in touch with your provider and communication and try to
Yeah.
I try to stay with my patients for a long time in the beginning to make sure we're doing okay. As opposed to
Mhm.
if you have a pellet place, it's set it and forget it for 3 months. With this, I'm adjusting it as we go. Does that make sense? So
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You have the opportunity to course correct as it
correct.
unfolds.
Correct.
And I think,
Yeah.
that's a great segue back into a relationship conversation because I think that as perimenopause and hormone changes, which isn't just like a sudden thing, it's like a gradual shifting, right?
It
Um,
is. Yes. Yep.
and
Totally.
so our relationships need to be able to course correct along the journey.
Yep,
Yeah.
agreed. And I think it's important for your work as far as the communication skills and having that baseline in your relationship where when these things are happening, you can have the open dialogue with your partner and feel comfortable and not feel like you're crazy or this is
Right.
what's happening. And I'm not sure if it is, but do you notice a difference? That kind of thing, right? Or is this normal or why isn't this working anymore? Or that kind of
Mhm.
thing. That way you as a couple can do this and move into the next space together, but you're doing it as a team and he understands or she or whoever your partner
Mhm.
is understands what you're going through and vice versa. It just makes it that much better in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just it. And I'm so glad that you said that, Amber. Like the the way to move through this as a couple is to move through this as a team. Because I think too often we women take on, and our partners and society can reinforce that this is just a woman's issue.
Correct.
And the truth is, no, this is a relational issue. This is a family issue. I've told my kids, guys, I'm going through perimenopause, and I've had to do some education with my kids about what that means so that they can understand why I'm acting differently,
Yeah.
why
That's a
I'm
real
cranky all the time lately. And
or tired or just exhausted and fatigued. That's a whole
yes,
other
yes,
thing.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we move it away from this is just my problem and I
Mhm.
need to figure it out. I need to go to the doctor and fix it so I can not have this experience. And I just want to say if you are a woman who doesn't want to take hormone replacement therapy, okay, cool. We each get to sovereignly decide how we want to move through our lives and what we want to do with our body. And I think for me, there's this recognition that relationally, it's okay for our relationship to change and for us to ask our relationship to change with us as we change. Or
Mhm.
it's okay if we don't want, if sex becomes less important and we're
Mhm.
okay with that. It's okay
Yep.
if we don't have as many fucks to give and we need our spouses to step up and do more of the emotional labor and the mental labor and the household labor and treat us like a queen a little bit more.
Yeah. Yes.
That was part of
Agree.
my shift. It was like, I am a queen and I need to be treated that way because I'm done serving everybody.
Good for you. Good for you. And that's a real thing too, right? You hit that point and you're like, I just can't
Yes,
do this anymore. So
yes.
yeah,
And
it's
that
real.
point is like, it's not a problem that we need to fix so that we can keep serving everybody, right? Like in
Mhm.
many ways, this initiation we go through may be revealing patterns in our relationship or patterns in who we're being or inviting us into our own like self-actualization in ways that our hormones previously didn't allow us to see. And now we can
Yeah,
see them. And so it's not about going backwards, right? That's the living
correct.
relationship. We're not trying to go backwards to how it used to be. We're taking this as new information about what we want to create going forward. How do we need to
Correct.
evolve? And
Correct.
we've got lots of choices in that. But we
100%. And yep, I agree with you. And I just wanted to, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off.
no,
I just
no,
want to
keep
say that
going.
I was like, it's just to that token, it's yes, no, is this a push for hormone? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I want to be clear about that. I just want women to understand that what you're feeling is real. And there's some women who experience more than others. So it depends upon if your
Mhm.
mother didn't have symptoms, you may not, and you may be fine, but you still might not feel as connected to your spouse, even though you're not having hot flashes and night sweats or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
just important to realize that there's more to this story than just he pissed you off because he didn't go to the grocery store or whatever.
Yep.
Like it could be
Mhm.
more. And I think knowledge is power. And if people understand that and they know, during the month, those it will fluctuate as far as how you feel, then it gives you a better understanding with your person. So
Yeah. I love that you said that, that knowledge is power. We actually we teach something that we call the power formula, which is awareness equals choice equals power. That like
okay.
when we have awareness of these things, now we can choose what to do differently. And that's the so much of what we're talking about here. It's like we don't have awareness of what's happening, what like how it affects us, what our
Mhm.
options are, and even the awareness of like how we can invite our partners into this journey with us. But when we do, now we have choices about how to move through this consciously and intentionally.
Correct. Correct.
We've covered a ton, but I know that you have a really great framework for understanding like what perimenopause affects in our lives. I was hoping that you could share that with our audience as like another way of framing, understanding, getting in touch with what's being affected.
So I coined this, and my husband thinks it's corny, but I'm like, to me, it makes sense.
I
But
love
it's
frameworks.
like,
I love it.
it's the three F's, right? Oops, can I say that? This is a bad situation we're dealing with, whatever. So it's like the three F's. The first one is physical. Yes, we all know physical is pH, but I do physical F. So
Yep.
there's physical changes that are occurring, like we talked about, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's between the weight gain or whatever, or you're losing your hair or what have you, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
The second one is functional. So, functional as far as like your hormone levels are changing, how you're processing, how you're connecting with your partner, how you're able to cope with life and go forward and move throughout your day with your kids screaming at you and your hormones are all over the place.
Yeah.
And then the last one is was basically the effing emotional roller coaster, basically, like the effing emotions. But that's a whole thing too, and it's a whole caveat. So basically, physical, functional, and effing emotional is how I like to look at it. And my friends, you are not alone, and we have all been there. And I just think that's super important.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes,
Thank you.
yeah.
And what would you suggest to the woman who is going through the physical, the functional, and the fucking emotional right now, and finding that her relationship is different, is harder, is less connected, is less intimate? Like, what is your top advice or recommendations for what she can be doing with that? What she can use this new awareness, this new knowledge in order to do in her life to make things better for her?
I think the relationship component is just evaluating, is this person going to be receptive as far as that's concerned? But if that is and it's a process and we're all on the same page, I think it would benefit them to go in and just maybe have a conversation, but do it with somebody who knows what's going on. I
Mm.
hear this all the time. I went to my doctor, they brushed me off. Now I feel even worse about myself.
Yep.
No, this is real. I promise you it's real. It's not made up. It's a real thing. You just have to go to somebody who knows how to treat this. And what I
Mhm.
have my patients do that I learned was track your symptoms. So you'll get a calendar, old school. I'm an old school girl. I get a calendar, and the moment that you start to bleed, which is day one of your cycle, you
Yep.
track your feelings. Usually we all feel pretty good because that's when your estrogen level is starting to climb. Your highest point is day 14. It's about 12 to 14. That's when you ovulate. That's your highest estrogen point, and that's going to be your highest testosterone point. Why?
Mhm.
Because you want to make a baby. That's what your body's doing. And then the last 2 weeks, you're going to slowly decline. Most of the symptoms in peri the last 2 weeks. If you're noticing during that time period that you're feeling more irritable, anxious, night sweats, want to kill somebody kind of feeling, it could be happening. And your
Yep.
periods are getting heavier. And then you have proof and you have a calendar and you can say, look, I've done this, I've tracked this, I'm not
Mm.
crazy. These are my
Mhm.
symptoms. Pay attention. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so brilliant. Those facts are so validating and really empowering, especially when you're bringing it to a medical provider. being able to really like
Data.
advocate for yourself.
People love data, and it's going to speak for itself, and they're going to know that you talked to somebody who told you to do this, and they're going to pay attention to you.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
So another question that's great advice for a woman in like supporting herself by getting medical consultation, help,
Yes.
information. What would you say, if you have any thoughts about this, Amber, what would you recommend that she share with her partner or spouse? What do partners and spouses need to hear or understand
I
in
think
order.
it's important for partners and spouses to understand there's a multitude of things, but one of them being that her capacity is not what it used to be. And she just does not have it in her like she used to. And she can try to explain it as much as she wants, but she's just going to get frustrated because her fuse is short, going to cause an argument. And then it's that you need to understand as the partner that she's going through something. The partner's a male, they continue to create testosterone all through their life. If your partner's a female, she may be going through the same thing. So it's just depending upon where we are in that spectrum. But I think that's important.
Yeah,
The other thing is, I think, and I'm going to bring this up because I think this is important, intimacy. And
please.
the reason I bring this up is because I see a lot of women, again, I want testosterone, my libido's in the toilet, it sucks. Let me tell you something. Estrogen is what nourishes and grows your lady parts. Okay. So it brings in blood flow. What does blood flow do? It's going to increase lubrication, it's
Yeah,
going to increase sensation.
yeah.
Your clitoris can actually get smaller without estrogen. Your ability to
Fascinating.
orgasm can go away, or you're like, I can't hit that. And it's taken me 25 minutes where it used to take me 10, or whatever the case is, right?
Yep, yep.
It's important. And your risk of having UTIs goes up, all of these things. So your partner does whatever you normally like, or
Mhm.
whatever it is. You don't hit the goal. And then your partner thinks, oh God, now why? Why isn't this not working? And she used to like this, and
Yeah.
she's embarrassed, and he feel or she feels now they don't love me, and it creates this weird dynamic where if you
Mhm.
just explain what's going on and then the smells change, it's a whole thing. But my point being is that all of this is fixable. Vaginal estrogen can fix this back to when you were 25 again, all day long. So that's important. And every woman can go on that. There isn't one woman that can't. I put my 94-year-old grandmother on it the other day. So it's a
That's
real thing.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are it's important. These are changes. You're not going to feel good about yourself. You need to be able to talk to your partner. Your partner's getting older, so they're going to feel some intimacy, almost like self-esteem issues as well.
Mhm.
So it just compounds this. And I think doing this together as a couple is what it's all about. And it actually makes you closer when you're able to discuss this and move forward. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is just so important, Amber, that as you're moving through this as a couple, you're recognizing that there's an opportunity here for increased closeness. Yes, your relationship is changing, and there may be grief in that.
Yeah.
That you may miss the ease with which you could previously climax, or you may grieve that your wife has much less capacity and now you have to do a whole lot more around the house, which I think is something Calvin is going through. Or if you're in a partnership as a woman with a woman, right, and you're both going through this, then you've both got less capacity and shit's got to change in a different way. And that's okay. And I think that's a key piece of this conversation that I wanted to have this month is the idea that like our relationships are not meant to stay the same.
No. Nope.
They are supposed to change. There are seasons, there are chapters, there are endings, and it may not be what you prefer in the moment, and it's
Mhm.
okay to grieve and feel all kinds of ways about it. And the stories that you're telling about those changes, the meaning that you're giving, whether you're taking it personally or feeling inadequate or telling a story that your spouse doesn't love you as much or feeling resentful because she's so cranky or like those stories, that
Mhm.
meaning that you give to this experience changes like the experience of it and the unfolding, right? Like where you all go. So if you can internalize this understanding as you're bringing to the table so beautifully, Amber, that this can be an opportunity for couples to grow even closer. I know that in
Agreed.
my relationship with Calvin, like when perimenopause started and I was in like the crashing of these changes, we had a ton of conflict and it was really hard. And I wasn't sure if we would make it sometimes. But the other side of it, like the way that we have restabilized, because I know that challenges are gifts, resources, and opportunities. I know that we have the tools and the commitment to move through hardship and come back together closer and better than ever, which is like key to what I want to teach people in their relationships.
Yeah.
Like what we're able to live right now, the deeper understanding, the greater equity and balance in our partnership, the ways that Cal has like stepped up and showed up in patterns that I thought would always be the same that have now changed. Like it is. I thought we were great before. We're even better now. And we wouldn't have been if this perimenopausal experience had not pushed and necessitated a lot of these changes.
I agree with you. We had the same exact thing. Like I was ready to it was bad. It was horrible. And
Oh,
same thing
yeah.
happened. And I think a lot it was bad. And
It's
I
not
think a lot of this is well, you're with that person who however length of time, right? And if this is a long-term relationship, there are stages, like you said, when you grow together, but a lot with this is being vulnerable and it's being able to really open up to your partner and like I didn't anticipate the response that I received back from my partner and it was it made us better just because struggles sometimes make you better but same notation is my point. So yes, I agree with you
yeah.
100% and it's not the end and it can actually make it that much better if you because it makes you work as a team through those
Yeah.
changes. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Amber, this has been such a rich, such a crucial conversation. I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing your wisdom. Before I let you go, I want to close with something that I hope will stay with our listeners long after our episode ends. What if you could leave the women and humans listening to this episode today with one key message, one thing that you want them to hear and remember and take with them, what would that message be?
Your feelings are valid. They always are valid and they're important. And don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise.
I feel that. Yeah. Thank you. So, Amber, for those who want to work with you or want to know more about the work that you're doing, how can they find you? How can they get a hold of you?
So my website is menopositivesolutions.com. I'm telehealth based. I do work out of the state of Florida, but I am looking at extending to other state licenses. So if there is somebody who's interested or reaches out, you can email me the emails on the website and so forth and let me know. It would be great. And like I said, I'm interested in branching out. I'm just trying to figure out where exactly maybe some of the interest would lie. But I would love to do that. I love men, women, you name it. I'm comfortable. So it's definitely it's exciting.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. What a great
Yeah.
resource. So I put the link to your website in the description. Please, everyone, find and follow Amber. If you're in Florida and going through this, reach out to her. This is a trusted resource. I wish that I were in Florida so I could come and see you, but I'm grateful to have this information, be able to share it with our world. You are the real deal, and women need you. So thank you
Thank you.
again so much, Amber, for being here.
Thank
I
you for
hope
having
everybody
me.
got as much from this conversation as I did. If something that Amber shared with you today, like landed, just know that's not an accident. That's information. This is information that was meant for you. Pay attention to it, my friends. All right. Thank you for being here. I want to take a moment to just share a little bit about the way that you can work with me if you are looking for the kind of support where you're getting ongoing opportunities to learn, to apply, to improve your relationship, then I want to invite you to the Relationship Revolution community. It's $147 a month, and you can cancel at any time if it doesn't support you, but I think that it will. This is a really great community for growing your relationship and staying in the work. If you need to go deeper, if you know that just weekly touch point isn't enough and you need deep change quickly for your relationship, this month I have got 3 spots open for VIP intensive. Comment catalyst and I'll get you some more information. Again, thank you for showing up to this Catalyst conversation. Until next time, keep leading with love. I hope you will join me for next week's Relationship Revolution conversation. We're going to continue our theme of the living relationship with another amazing guest expert. You're not going to want to miss it. See you later.